we can use those points. Then also in mining, in Burma, Myanmar, there's a lot of mining activities, extractive industry. So they joined the extractive industry transparency initiative. So they try to use this. This is a industry standard, international industry standard. So people try to use that. Josh talked about the UN guiding principles on business and human rights. Now, this UN guiding principles and business and human rights was unanimously adopted in June 2011. Yeah? Actually, it's very basic and it's very light, but it's very useful for us because now they are telling the governments, you must make a national action plan to implement the UN guiding principles of business and human rights. Last year in February in Bali, yeah, we all flew here through Bali, yeah? So last year in February in Bali, there was an ASEAN CSR conference, Corporate Social Responsibility. And they talk about the UN guiding principles. And all the ASEAN representatives said, yeah, okay, we will do national action plan. And it was reported. At this time, most government didn't really do anything yet. But we are doing. We already start to analyze in Myanmar. Where is the weak law about land, about people's workers' rights, about environmental rights, and we are making the analysis so that we can say, hey, Myanmar, we are so happy you said you will do national action plan. We already helped you. See, we made the study. Now, please make this national action plan. We are helping you. Yeah? Since you are a little bit slow, you are too busy, we help you. So sometimes we also have to think like this. If Vietnam already agreed to make national action plan, okay, how can we push? How can we push and make sure that we already present our recommendation? Usually the government is more organized than us, but sometimes we can be more organized than the government, especially when they are slow to do the things which they are supposed to do. Okay? So they are fast to jail, they are fast to arrest, but they are not fast to make national action plan. Yeah? So, and the Food and Agriculture Organization also has what we call voluntary guidelines on land tenure, on land ownership. And in the FAO voluntary guidelines, they actually acknowledge customary land ownership. Customary land ownership is really about indigenous peoples, about they are staying there for a long time, and everybody, as the community, owns that land, they grow things on the land, they take care of that land, so they should have a right to own that land properly. Because our government sometimes they only look at paper, and then they look at special paper, not all the paper that you give them. Yeah? So we are trying to encourage governments to adopt the FAO voluntary guidelines. And of course, there is the UN Declaration on the Rights of Indigenous People. a year. Some people even spend a few $1,000s a year in insurance. Okay? Now, all these insurance and pension companies, they have a lot of money, but they need to invest the money to make more money while it's sitting there, while it's waiting for you to collect. If you're putting your money now, you get your pension when you're 60 years old, so the money is sitting there for a few years. They need to keep the money alive and productive, so they are investing in other businesses. So these are what we call institutional investors because they have a lot of money to invest. Now, some institutional investors have rules and regulations, especially about human rights, about environment, about labor rights. So we often try to encourage the institutional investors to know what is going on with the companies that they are investing in. This is why in mining, sometimes the mining company hate human rights activists. But now we have what we call multi-stakeholder dialogue, where we call the institutional investor to come in the room as part of the dialogue. Because the institutional investor is there now, the mining company come and they parents, oh, very nice to meet you. Oh, yes, yes. We understand what you are saying. So this is one of the strategies. Laos, Vietnam, Cambodia, Myanmar, Thailand all depend on financing. Yeah? Not just institutional investors like the pension and insurance companies, but also Asian Development Bank, World Bank. These are what we call the IFIs, the International Financial Investors. They are the ones who lend the money to your governments and to some of the big companies to do the big infrastructure projects. We always chase them to make sure they follow the rules, that they have policies that are pro-human rights. This is why in Cambodia a few years ago, a World Bank finance project was forcing people out of their land, and people made a complaint to the World Bank and said, Cambodian government is doing this with your money. Yeah? And then they had to go and talk to Phnom Penh, hey, hello brother, and say, you know what, you did this, you know, it's against the rules. And then Hun Sen said, get lost. So World Bank said, okay, no more money. And then Hun Sen said, oh, sorry, misunderstanding. Okay, we are solving the problem now. Yeah. So you can already see in Laos, the Xayaburi Dam, the campaign for Xayaburi Dam is a dangerous one for Laotian people. If you are in Laos, it's not just you can disappear, maybe your children or your family members will get a problem. So we have to depend on solidarity from friends in Thailand and Malaysia, because this dam is joint venture with Malaysian company and Thai company. Yeah? So this is where solidarity is very important. Yeah? It might not be safe for you in your country, but maybe your friends outside can also help you. Your friends outside can go and lobby and pressure those international companies or investors who are involved in this project. Okay? So I'm just giving you some, I didn't want to give you the situation. There's information on land grabbing in Burma. Please come and help yourself. But I just wanted to share with you, we feel so terrible and so sad, especially with our sister here who has to go to jail so many times, and many other people who lost their land, who lost their livelihood. But we have to think, what are the solutions? How can we try to change the situation? Yeah? Governments and companies will tell us it won't change, please go home and keep quiet. But actually, if we keep doing it, something will change. Okay? So, thank you for your time.
Thank you. Thank you. Yeah.
Now, recommendation that we should take to the plenary, the ASEAN People's Forum. So, yes, let me grab a pen and paper. Oh, we have two more speakers. I'm sorry. Okay, sorry. Okay, so I'll put your name down after the James. But who's going to be speaking?
She had the video, but nobody can hear.
Okay.
So I wanted her to be able to actually fully.
Sau khi một người đã nói, xin một sư nói. Chưa, phải có một người khác nói.
Hello. Okay. Sorry. Misunderstanding. But at least you won't lose your land over this misunderstanding. We are going to play the video again.
No. The audio doesn't work, but just for her to explain.
Oh, to explain. Okay. So when we started with the video, we couldn't hear what was going on. So now we're going to get an explanation of the video.
Những gì bà nói tôi đã tiếp thu được và tôi nghĩ rằng những cái điều bà nói chính phủ Việt Nam của tôi không như bà nói.
All the things that you just shared with us, I learned from you a lot. However, I just think that it won't work for the Vietnamese government.
Bởi vì chính phủ của Việt Nam không hề lo cho dân mà chỉ cướp của dân.
Because the Vietnamese government won't care about its people, they only try to take away from what these people have.
Nên tôi chỉ mong muốn và tha thiết mọi người trong diễn đàn hôm nay nhập cuộc vào cái vụ đất đai để có một cái phương hướng cho tốt đẹp.
I only wish that everyone here today try to join us and support the government within
Tôi hy vọng rằng nếu đã nhập cuộc thì tất cả sẽ được thành công.
I believe that if we work together as a collaboration at the national level, we will be successfully getting change.
Thank you. When we talk about thinking like the government, sometimes we have to think also like the Vietnamese government. Sometimes it's not the right time to talk to them, but things change. Yeah, things change. But definitely we have to have a strategy. So people support you, but we need some action, some plan for action. Yeah? One more? Yeah.
Cảm ơn tất cả các bạn. Tôi xin chia sẻ với những điều mà cô vừa nói. Tôi là người Cộng.
Thank you everyone. I just have something to share with you all. It's along the line with this people just say.
Tôi tên là Trần Ngọc Sương. Tôi là một tín đồ đạo cao đài 1926.
My name is Trần Ngọc Sương. I am a member of Cao Dai, a religion originated from Vietnam in 1956.
Sau khi chiến tranh Việt Nam chấm dứt, chính quyền bắt đàn áp và tịch thu tài sản của chúng tôi, bao gồm những thánh thất và nghĩa trang.
After the Vietnam War ended, the government began to confiscate our properties, including temples and cemeteries.
Chính quyền chiếm đoạt tòa thánh Tây Ninh. Đây là trung tâm thờ phượng của chúng tôi. Chúng tôi khởi kiện nhưng không được nhà cầm quyền phán xét.
The government confiscated the Tây Ninh Temple, which is the center of our worship. We filed a complaint, but the government ignored it completely.
Đến năm 1985, họ chiếm thánh thất Long Điền Bờ địa Vũng Tàu.
In 1985, the government took away the Long Dien Temple.
Tháng 9 năm 2002, họ tịch thu nghĩa trang đất nơi Dĩ An của Bình Dương để bán đất cho các nhà đầu tư nước ngoài.
In September 2002, the government confiscated Cao Đài Cemetery in the Dian province to sell for foreign investors.
Tháng 12 năm 2009, chính quyền chiếm đoạt thánh thất Định Quán thuộc tỉnh Đồng Nai.
In December 2009, the government confiscated Temple Định Quán in the Đông Nai province.
Tháng 9 năm 2012, chính quyền chiếm đoạt thánh thất Phù Mỹ thuộc tỉnh Bình Định. Chúng tôi đã bị đánh đập khi ra sức chống cự.
In September 2012, the government confiscated Temple Phù Mỹ in Bình Dương province. Our members were beaten during the resistance.
Tháng 7 năm 2013, chính quyền chiếm thánh thất Long Bình. Họ gây thương tích nặng cho một số tín đồ.
In July 2013, the government again confiscated Temple Long Bin and they seriously injured several members.
Tháng 11 năm 2014, chính quyền chiếm đoạt thánh thất Phổ Hiền Trang của tỉnh Tiền Giang.
In November 2014, the government again confiscated Temple Phổ Hiền Trang.
Tháng 4 năm 2016, chính quyền chiếm đoạt thánh thất Tuy An của Bình Định.
In April 2016, the government took away Temple Tuy An.
Tháng 9 năm 2015, chính quyền chiếm đoạt thánh thất Phú Chánh, Bình Dương.
In September 2015, the government confiscated Temple Phú Chánh, Bình Dương.
Hiện nay chúng tôi đang chống chọi sự xâm chiếm của thánh thất An Ninh Tây thuộc tỉnh Long An.
Today we are resisting their occupation of our temple in An Ninh, Tây An.
Qua những sự chiếm đoạt nêu trên, ngày hôm nay chúng tôi không còn nơi thờ phượng. Vì thế chúng tôi buộc tổ chức nghi lễ tại quốc gia.
Because of everything we have was taken away, we have no place to worship. That's why we have to do the worship at our own house.
Chính quyền Việt Nam dùng công an và côn đồ đánh đập ngăn chặn sự sinh hoạt của chúng tôi.
The government sent police and the bus to stop our activities.
Thay mặt cho các đồng đạo, tôi thỉnh nguyện quý vị đang có mặt nơi đây hãy giúp chúng tôi đòi lại quyền cư hữu đất đai và quyền làm người. Xin cảm ơn.
On behalf of all members of Cao Đài, I ask all of you here today, please help us to fight for our property rights and human rights of our Cao Đài. Thank you so much.
Thank you. I think it's unquestioned. We definitely feel a lot of solidarity and sympathy for you. But we also need to hear from you what actions should be done. As someone who has been working for many years on many causes, especially on Burma, the problem is not sympathy. The problem is explaining to people or giving them the chance to do something. Yeah? So when we say support can mean anything. In fact, I know I'm going to be rude here, but even when we say support, even the bra gives us support. Yeah, what kind of support do we want? Yeah, so sometimes I tell my students, we need to be clear on how to get the support. What do you, if for me, I'm not in Vietnam, yeah, I'm maybe going to UN, maybe I'm going here and there, I'm doing certain things. So how can I help you? Yeah, so we have to also start thinking about how to empower everybody else to be part of the solution. How can we make it easy for them to support us? Yeah? So it's quite important and part of our activism because support can mean so many things.
He wants to talk.
Yes, we have James and then we have James on the speaking list and who else? Yes? Okay. So James has been showing his hand for a while, and then our friend from Kodai, and then anybody else? Any hands? Any hands? Okay.
Kính thưa quý vị, tôi là một sư đạo đại diện cho giáo hội Tin lành Christ, người sắc tộc tại Tây Nguyên.
Ladies and gentlemen, my name is, I am the
Thân phận Việt Nam.
Pastor A Đạo.
pastor.
Pastor A Đạo.
Anh Thắng, anh chịu học.
Pastor A Đạo with the Montagnard Evangelical Church of Christ.
Tôi đến đây, đáng lý là tôi phải nói về cái phần mà tôn giáo, về vị chính quyền Việt Nam đàn áp, nhưng mà về vấn đề đó tôi không thể nói tại vì không có thời giờ.
I was supposed to talk about religious persecution faced by my community, but because for the sake of time, I'm not going to touch that.
Tôi chỉ tóm tắt về câu chuyện về hiện tại chính quyền Việt Nam luôn luôn đàn áp và cướp hết đất đai của người sắc tộc Tây Nguyên của chúng tôi.
I just want to share with everyone that currently the Vietnamese government is persecuting us, suppressing us, and has policy to take away all our land.
Tôi chỉ nói ngày hôm nay đấy, một số dân làng mà họ làm nương làm rẫy đó, hiện tại bây giờ công ty nguyên đầu giấy và bộ quốc phòng của bên bộ đội đòi lấy lại.
Right now, lands being used for plantation by my people are being demanded to be returned, to revoke the land right used by the Defense Ministry of Vietnam.
Có một số dân thì lại bị đi tù, có một số lại bị phạt tiền, có một số thì lại bị đánh đập.
Some of us got beaten up, some of us have been imprisoned, and some of us must pay fines imposed by the government.
Chính vì cái điều đó, ngày hôm nay thì tôi nói lên cái sự thật về cái điều này để mong như là bạn bè hải ngoại luôn luôn quan tâm cũng như là tạo điều kiện cho người sắc tộc chúng tôi.
I'm just saying this so that we can appeal to you to give us your attention and show us how to fight for our land rights.
Có người dân thì nói với tôi như thế này: nếu như họ lấy đất thì chúng tôi thà chém chết họ, một là chúng tôi đi tù.
So some of my people stated that if the government took away our land, we will defend it for our own lives.
Tại vì gia đình của chúng tôi không có đất đai để mà sinh sống hàng ngày, cái đất bản địa Tây Nguyên của chúng tôi.
Because we have no way to maintain our livelihood.
Chính vì tình trạng như thế, tôi không biết về làm việc như thế nào và tháo gỡ như thế nào. Tại vì báo cáo trên huyện cũng như trên tỉnh, tại vì dưới tay chân của họ rồi thì chúng tôi là người sắc tộc không thể làm việc được.
I don't know how to respond to that because we have filed complaints to the higher level of government, but they are the one behind the land seizure.
Tôi mong tất cả và bạn bè hải ngoại luôn luôn tạo điều kiện và giúp đỡ cho chúng tôi.
Please show us how to fight.
Tôi xin chân thành cảm ơn.
Thank you.
Yes.
Em bên đây này.
Chút dịch đi.
Phải chụp hình, phải quay phim.
Xin chào tất cả mọi người có mặt trong phòng họp hôm nay.
Greetings everyone.
Tôi tên là Nguyễn Văn Nhật, là một tín đồ Phật giáo Hòa Hảo ở đồng bằng sông Cửu Long, Việt Nam.
I'm Nguyễn Văn Nhật. I'm a member of the Hòa Hảo Buddhist community in the Mekong Delta.
Trước khi trả lời câu hỏi của bà, tôi sẽ trình bày những gì mà Hòa Hảo của chúng tôi đã bị cướp đoạt cho bà biết rõ.
Before answering your question, I'd like to spend a little bit of time to explain the situation of my community.
Trước năm 1975, Phật giáo Hòa Hảo có trên hàng ngàn cơ sở thờ tự.
Before 1975, our church has owned thousands of facilities.
Thế mà sau năm 1975, nhà cầm quyền của Cộng sản họ đã cướp đoạt tất cả.
After 75, the communist government took away all of our properties.
Những phòng đọc giảng, chùa chiền và các cơ sở thờ tự Hòa Hảo đều hoàn toàn.
facilities have all been taken away.
Nhất là trong đó có ngôi nhà của ông Võ Văn Giỏi ở Bạc Liêu.
Especially the home of Mr. Võ Văn Giỏi in Bạc Liêu.
Đó là nơi mà Phật giáo Hòa Hảo có rất là nhiều kỷ niệm.
That's the founding place of our religion.
Nơi mà Đức Huỳnh giáo chủ đã ở đó làm việc một thời gian rất là lâu.
Where our founder spent time there.
Thế mà họ đã cướp đoạt hoàn toàn, không cho chúng tôi đến đó để thăm viếng lại những gì mà Hòa Hảo chúng tôi đã có nơi đó.
And our community has been banned from even approaching and visiting that holy place.
Và đây xin trả lời câu hỏi của bà, đưa ra cái biện pháp nào để khắc phục vấn đề đó.
And this is my contribution to answering your question on how we can deal with that.
Riêng tôi nghĩ rằng yêu cầu tất cả mọi người có mặt trong phòng họp hôm nay,
I call all people present here.
xin tất cả mọi người hãy lên tiếng vận động chính quyền của Việt Nam hãy trả lại những gì đáng thuộc về tôn giáo, đáng thuộc về Hòa Hảo và Cao Đài.
Please raise your voice and insist that the Vietnamese government return all the properties that belong to the different religions, especially the Hoa Hảo and the Cao Đài religions.
Yêu cầu chính quyền Việt Nam hãy trả lại cái được gọi là dân chủ, nhân quyền và tự do tôn giáo.
And return to the people the freedom of religion, democracy and human rights.
Xin hết, cảm ơn rất nhiều.
Thank you. Because we don't have much time, I understand that it will take years, if not decades, to address this problem. Is there any place, any organization that will provide assistance and guidance or to help the difficulties get started?
Good question. Hang on, how do I turn this on? Yeah.
Good question. Okay. One of the things which came out even from the Freedom of Religion and Belief Conference that we had on Monday and Tuesday is learning how to do documentation and evidence. This is what happened with our presenter from Laos. He trained people to get footage and evidence to come out about what was happening in Laos. This is very, very important. Then we also have to do documentation in the format which is useful for governments and the UN. Complaining to the Vietnamese authorities is an important part of the process, but it is not the main part of the process. Because we know what the government of Vietnam, Laos or Cambodia are like. We know what the regime in Burma was like. And even though they show a hard face to the people and pretend like they don't care, they care because they have ego. They care when we name and shame them in the international community. They care when governments, other governments ask them questions on human rights issues during the Universal Periodic Review, the UPR process. And Joshua is actually an expert in training people in UPR, especially with indigenous peoples. So you can see the diplomacy training program, which had a workshop this morning, even May, other organizations, including Foreign Asia. There are a number of many, the International Service for Human Rights, there are a number of many groups who might just specialize in human rights advocacy, but there are also other groups who will specialize in business and human rights advocacy and campaigning. Yeah? I know in your situation, it feels like there's no hope. It's been for decades that you have been struggling with this problem. But you will, your faith, your community, your movement will outlive the current government.
Yes.
I guarantee you. We are living in a world where the in the past we think dictator, oh, your next generation, your children will pay for your sins. But now we are seeing in Asia, the dictator that was so strong and so scary and so powerful came down. In Malaysia, the dictator came down and tried to now make friends with the human rights community, Dr. Mahathir, asking for human rights community to support him. Okay, so we live in a world now, an exciting world where the situation can change within our lifetime, and we must not give up our hope. We have to keep on working in whichever way, but now there are more people who can help you develop those strategies. We have BPSOS, yeah, which now has a lot of network and a lot of knowledge and experience doing international advocacy. So we also, in trying to change our situation, sometimes we have to change ourselves and the way we work.
Thank you so much for your presentation. It's a great lesson for us to learn. But I think the problem with Vietnam is when the government confiscate the properties, what they do is they're not selling to people like in Europe or in America or Japan, but they sell them to the Chinese. And the Chinese and the Vietnamese, they never respect the law. And I think that's the biggest issue, or Taiwanese.
Who are the biggest markets for Taiwanese and Chinese companies?
America.
US. Okay? So another magic word, another magic phrase is supply chain. Supply chain. Okay? Now, supply chain means, for example, I'm buying an American iPhone in Los Angeles. Wonderful. But, where did the parts of that phone come from? Who were the workers who made the little parts of the phone? And then how did it come and then become one phone? Okay? Or was there any